All right, we're gonna call the general government committee meeting to order at 10:04. 10:03. A motion to approve the agenda. I do. Discussion on the agenda. Have a closed session on here.
May actually, I just got an email. We're actually gonna need that.
How about we got a couple of meetings. We met on October 13th. Regular meeting, and we met on October 18th, the special meeting. Motion to approve the.
Sure, I have a comment on the deed.
Let's maybe get a motion and a second, and then we'll have discussion. A motion to approve those two meetings.
So I made a motion to approve them.
Discussion.
13. Closed session. We reconvened in open session. My recollection was that after the reconvening in open session, we did meet with the union representative.
Open session.
All that in closed session.
Yeah, we didn't meet with them in open session.
There was no meeting in.
Oh,
open
I thought
session.
she closed and then they came in. It-
We're invited into the open session periodically after they come. We come. All the bargaining and negotiating happens in closed.
We made our butt.
Any other discussion of the minutes of those two meetings? Not all in favor. Anyone has any conflict of interest on any matters we'll be discussing? Let us know. Any public comments?
No public comments.
Any information from supervisors not seated as committee members that they'd like to share with this committee? Any announcements or committee information that we need to receive? We have our closed session next, but then we need to have not all leave the room. Do we want to hold off and then get through some of our business?
I think we can do it at the end.
We're gonna hold off and try to get our open session. All right, a discussion regarding ARPA fund project. Really? What, how I just go by
It's on the
agenda?
agenda.
It just so happens that you've all been
However-
right, line 9.
I would just say, I think all of you have your sheets there. There's really nothing new to say, but for Mr. Pritchard's benefit. You can see what's on there to each committee. Things that have been affected include the recycling center. We already approved. And Sharon has a resolution proposed to the Justice Center roof, museum roof, bell tower, and radio microwave initiative, as well as the new site. In fact, The other recommendation from a committee was out of environmental services for the LiDAR hydrography mapping, 132,000. Parks and trails, many of those dollars already committed. Playground equipment at parks was recommended by environmental services for 90,000. And HHS also recommended that we make a priority consideration for the command post, 550,000. I noticed Don is over there with a bunch of materials, so Mr. Chair, I don't know if not on the agenda necessarily, but if you wanted to ask him questions on radio tap microwave system and the new radio tower site, you could ask him.
We'll have a discussion on the.
All right.
Question I have though, for on the ARPA, because we didn't talk about it at the last committee, was that recommendation from Polk on the, someone explained to us about the emergency
Command center.
Center. Is that where we do this here, or do we do it at the county board?
We can discuss it here. It was simply, I think, we discussed briefly Sharon's proposal for the types of projects he was considered, and that group felt like, well, based on things related to HHS, they agreed, they had a consensus that, boy, we need that command center. We need a new command center to help with not only community services in the health department, but also the sheriff's department. Like I said, many of these things come up quickly. Didn't have a lot of specifics on the command center. We didn't ask a lot of questions.
So that was my question is what's wrong with the command center now? All I heard was it's 20 years old.
We, public safety has made an amendment to the resolution. Sharon's resolution is coming to the board. So
Public safety made a.
yeah, public safety first heard the resolution. Now you're hearing the resolution. Public safety put forward an amendment for the command center. So just procedurally, we should probably hear a presentation on the command center to go with that amendment once the resolution comes.
Later in the, okay, yeah, that's fine.
Yes.
Patients aren't covered, but under health safety. Safety radio. Microwave radio system. Those are two different things.
Yes. And I think that's one that Don will address later, but the radio site is to cover a gap in the St. Croix Falls area. Be a site, we'd have an agreement with Taylor's Falls or that county. And the microwave is, in my layman's terms, that's a backup system to ensure that these forces can communicate from tower to tower, other parts of the county.
It's in the resolution, Mr. Pritchett.
Both items are in the resolution.
And Supervisor Kelly's resolution, those will be brought up.
Or no, the site is 350 instead of 460.
Yes, I'm sorry, thank you. The new site was, we thought initially it would be 460, but it had actually 300.
We're slightly jumping ahead. We'll be discussing the roads. All right, we got discussion on possible action regarding the recycling. Who's gonna lead us in that?
I think Mo is going to discuss latest information we have, some discussion with Republic.
Just give a quick update on, one of the questions was, after the meeting last month on the 21st of October, Polk was going to meet with us on a proposal on what they can do for us for recycling. That proposal was not a written proposal. There was more discussion with Republic. And their proposal was that they would bring in a compactor and 2 semi-trailers to our facility. We would still haul our recyclables to the facility. They would compact them and then haul them up to their facility in Serona. We would rent those compactor and the 2 semi-trailers for $6,000 a month. They would haul our recyclables for $185 per ton. Get a credit back on that of $165 per ton. So our net cost based on our current tonnage would be, it cost us about $48,000 for them to haul our recyclables away. And these are cardboard, commingle, plastic bottles, that type of recycling. The equipment would cost us $72,000 to rent for 1 year. This is based off a 10-year contract. Our net cost then would be $120,000. We would still have our facility, still have our trucks to haul our bins from our other areas. We potentially could reduce staff by 1 if we did not take any other recyclables in, such as appliances, waste oil, mattresses, and any of those. We still have our infrastructure costs of having the facility. Probably wouldn't need to be as big as it is now, but they were just hauling off our recyclables. And that was their proposal. So we still have our staff, we still have our cost of having our staff. Dealt with that, and that was their proposal. Did I miss anything on that, please? As far as the 1.62 right now, draft RFP, I completed the draft RFP, sent that up for review with Chad, Vincent, Lee, and Joe on that. So that has been drafted right now. That's all I have.
Any comments, questions?
I have trouble absorbing all that, Mo, as you presented verbally up there. Bottom line, what are we talking about? What would we continue to do as a county operation, and what would Republic do?
Republic we would cease to have the clients at the recycling center to sort the material that come in.
We would cease to have
The clients from Endeavors at the recycling center to sort the material. We would not no longer sell that on the open market, Chicago market. Republic would haul all our recyclables that we haul in to their site in Serona. We would still
so
continue.
we wouldn't be processing anything.
Would only be processing solid waste, appliances, waste oil, tires, light bulbs, that type of thing. It becomes more of a transfer station for those items as far as cardboard, bottles, cans. Transfer station instead of a sorting station.
How much of the $1.6 million would we need to be a transfer station?
That I don't know.
Any?
The compactor itself could sit outside and just load it to load it. As we dump it in and bucket it
We'd
into
be
the
renting
compactor.
the compactor. So I'm having trouble to see what, if anything, we would have any expense on.
Expense would still be our whatever cycle we want to continue to receive appliances, light bulbs, waste oil, mattresses, those type of recyclables.
We receive them.
We still need this facility there, so we'd still need to update our infrastructure for that. Still have our infrastructure as far as rolling stock of trucks and bins that we would have to haul and place it to municipalities and bring back to our facility.
Back to the facility.
Yes.
Republic, the light bulbs, whatever else you're talking about. We're pulling all that out.
No. Public is only hauling out cardboard, plastics, aluminum. Unless we made another arrangement to pay for them all. This was only for the commingled recycling that we pick up at our bins.
What sort of a term are they proposing?
In here,
They take all the benefit or risk of reselling the recyclable.
correct. Our initial cost for 10 years.
Done this in other localities around here?
Not to my knowledge, taking over a recycling center that way, this having this junction. They do a call from Bering County, they do call from Burnett County. Now the program set up.
Doesn't appear to be any action. Any more questions? Recycling center?
Yes, the bottom line question, again, I still have. If we were to enter into such a public, would there be any reason to spend any or all of the $1,062,000?
Yes, if the board decides we continually want to take the other recyclables in at our center, still have to update the center.
Going to be in the black this year?
Be running in the positive.
Much of our black is accounted for. Report plastics, paper.
What is the breakout of that?
What's that?
I don't have that information in front of me currently. Our we are up.
But as far as that versus all the other stuff that we have, is how is that the major portion of what we are saleable recyclable?
I think just as a point of clarification, when we say we're in the black, that's in the black as a reason after the use of levy dollars. We take about 270,000, I believe.
That's what my question was. How much do we actually, to make it, how much tax dollars and state funding is required to be in the black? I just don't want Mr. Pritchard to.
Give me a second, I'll pull up this current, the current.
We have 209,742 in levy. We have our clean sweep grant is 15,500. Our recycling grant is 159,674.
It's about 380,000.
So there's $380,000 of tax dollars, state or local, that fund to keep the recycling center operational. Right. It doesn't ever completely pay for itself. It never has.
Not if you're gonna look at it as a true enterprise. If an enterprise would be, it generates enough profit that it takes no tax
To cover the levy.
Well, it's one of the enterprises the county owns that generates profit on a given day that helps. Is there any other departments in the county that we do that with?
The last enterprise we have besides recycling is GAM. Manner. And GAM has no levy dollars.
My questions, I guess, along with Mr. Pritchard's comments would be, if we spend $1.6 million on fixing the recycling center, and we do the Republic deal or whatever other ideas are out there. Is there any guarantee that that $380,000 that we have to use either of state aid or county levy, would that change in the future? Would that go up or down?
State legislators are working on the recycling grants to get more money in there. They've been flat since 1999. They are working on upping those.
Sure.
The
Not even talking about those funds. I'm just saying, so the county understands and the community understands we spend about $380,000 to offset the operating costs of the recycling center. So if this is our budget for the recycling center now, and we use $380,000 to help offset, make that as close to neutral as you can then. If we do these improvements, does our operating costs go up or down? I mean, are we going to be able to do more? Are we going to be able to, or, you know, that's sometimes in a business, you invest money for a new piece of equipment or something. That means you have to hire another operator, or you've got another maintenance guy, or you got a maintenance truck. And I just wonder, if we do these improvements, I heard that with Republic, we might lose one employee, so operating costs could go down. But if you have to buy a new loader to do some of these things, that's where this $1.6 million is going to help offset some of these improvements to change. That, I guess that's my question. Do we know whether our operating costs are going to go up or down based on a $1.5 million investment?
The expansion of the recycling center was to expand our recycling and sorting abilities to get more money out of our commodities.
Sure.
Right now, the way we can recycle and separate our commodities are kind of lumped together so we don't get high dollar. The expansion would give us more revenue coming in because currently we sell our bundles to Republic, so they can take them to their facility, they can strip them down and separate them out further. They get more money for the number 5 plastics and the number 7. So it would increase our revenues, expanding it, get that in there. With that, so the potential is there. I mean, the energy savings with lighting and an outdated system, actually there's some there, but it's more of a 10-year buyback.
And so there again, it goes back to what, I mean, I'm guessing we depreciate, you know, and I'm getting into the weeds, but, you know, when you look at something like this entity, are we improving the recycling for my township of Milltown Township? We don't have a bin. I don't believe in Milltown Township. Recycling bin, right?
The recycling bins are here in Balsam and in the village of Milltown.
In the village, right? So there, and my point is there's communities out there that don't have a recycling bin. You have to drive somewhere to go do it. It's not maybe right on your way. To me, if we're going to spend money to improve recycling, are we spending money to try to make more revenue? And obviously the building needs to be fixed. And since we're going to keep in this business, we're going to stay in this business, as the board voted to stay in the business of recycling. My point is, are we going to improve recycling for all of us and for the communities that don't have recycling? Or are we just trying to improve the recycling so we can have more revenue? Because to pay back $1.6 million as a business owner, pay back the $1.6 million, and to hopefully get to the point where we don't have to spend money out of general fund or our levy. Are we doing those things for that? Or are we doing things to improve the recycling, that we're getting more recycling out of the community?
I think the program itself, with the ability to sort more efficiently and quicker, will allow us to recycle more tonnage for our residents. Taking the business model, our bins exactly as if you took, with the ability to sort better, can we go to single stream sorting, where you dump everything in one bin, you call it good, no one has to separate them out with their own containers and all that kind of stuff. With single stream, people are more active to recycle more in the community because they don't have that ability. They don't have that need that they have to put their cans here and their bottles here.
How do we get
your tonnage goes up?
Right. So how do we get people to recycle more then? If we only have the same amount of bins and we only have the same amount of trucks, I get it, we're gonna be more recycling. How do we get more recycling to the recycling center? Is that part of the improvements to the recycling program?
With that, we could, it's outreach, it's more bins to bring them to areas that want them more.
But could we use the 1.6 million to do that? I mean, if we're
Possibly,
if we're
depending on
improving,
those costs come in. I mean, we expanded now into,
'cause if we're good,
Secteria has bins this now. Last year was, Clear Lake, we added bins, and Eureka Center, we added bins.
I understand the goal is to make the recycling program better. I've always been a bad guy. I want to see recycling better. But I haven't heard anything to say we're making it better. We're trying to make it more efficient. But how are we making it better? How are we getting more recycling? And I haven't heard anyone talk about that. But I don't need to get it resolved today, but that's just the question that's the question I'm gonna keep asking. I'm all for doing what the board wants to do. But I want to see recycling improve then in the county.
Those numbers going up versus.
Yeah, I
Our
mean,
tonnage going up, that
yeah.
we're recycling.
Absolutely. That's, to me, if that's what we're doing, that's what we should be doing. To be honest with you, government's not generally very efficient. So I'm not gonna bear down your efficiency as much as can we get more products recycled.
Know that, because, we end up hauling some of our recyclables away now before sorting,
Because you're full.
we just can't get through it yet.
Are you looking for something more? Are you looking for something from this committee? Further?
No, this was,
Discussion, but we thought, we wanted you to hear about the Republic offer, our consensus on the staff, and I think what yours is that probably not going to fit our needs.
That's what you guys are saying is that's what I was trying to understand. Pritchard's asked questions and
Right.
I felt the same way. What do you guys think of this offer? Not too much. It's not a good offer.
it's not a good offer. It's not
Okay.
gonna cost the county more.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, and that's all we need to hear. Sure.
Thanks.
Thanks.
You. Okay, now,
What's that? Well, we're gonna review the policy on the general fund balance.
yeah. Chad has put together a presentation to kind of talk about an issue that Donald has been bringing up over and over.
Quickly, never heard that.
Never heard.
But no, it's a very important and timely discussion on the unassigned fund balance, to explain what it is and how we might propose changing what our requirements
All right, so our present policy is to maintain 20% unassigned fund balance. If we fall below that, the administrator has to enact a plan in the next budget to bring it back up, which essentially means proration, because we operate on a balanced budget theory, that there's not going to be any excess at the end of the year. So you have to prorate your budget to put it back in. As we get closer to true budgeting, that'll be more effective. So what I did is I did a survey of other counties when this issue came up, trying to find out what their policies were, where they were setting the fund balance and looking over. I just wanted to go over a couple things. What do we mean by unassigned fund balance? It's the available reserve funds as a percentage of our general fund expenditures for the prior year. So once we get our audited statements, we look at what our actual expenditures were out of the general fund. And then we look at how much cash we have on hand that's not statutorily dedicated or resolution dedicated or some other legislative action. And it's a percentage to those expenditures. So we want to have, if we spend $10 million in 1 year, we want to have $2 million unassigned fund balance would be our 20%. It doesn't include specific funds like highway, golden age, manor health insurance, debt service, community service fund, sales tax. However, community service funds flow back into the general fund by resolution. CAM flows back into the general fund if they make a profit by resolution. Sales tax. Those are just our accounting methods. So as of 12/31/20, because when we talk about fund balance, we can't tell you as of right now how much cash that we put back in because we're not through the budget year. You take your audit. So as of 12/31, we had $17,717,932 unassigned cash. That's 63.52%. 2020 general fund expenditures of $27,894,000. It is not looking at our total budget and saying we have $62 million budget, we have $30 million cash. It's only the general fund portion. We calculate. We increased our fund balance from 2019. We increased by $3,806,808. That's a very big increase. Once again, that's COVID. Lots of funding came in. We didn't use a lot of stuff that was budgeted because we offset it with COVID funds. You saw a big surge that year, so that's very anomalous. And we had a 51% general fund unassigned percentage as of the 2019. So our percentage went up. Current policy, as I said, is fund balance of at least 20% of general fund expenditures. If you look at the end of the year, be in compliance with policy, we have to have $5,578,842 unassigned cash. Be at our 20%. Presently, we have $12,139,090 of our minimum policy of unassigned cash. Does that make sense? All right, so I reached out to other counties and that's the responses I got. And I asked him to, the first slide is I asked him to send me, what is your policy? What's your policy? You see the counties that responded. Folks at 20, got Barron 25 to 33. Some counties operate in a range. They say we want this to be our target range, which you keep. It was 30. Scroll down to La Crosse, they're 25 to 50. Milas is 30 to 40. Pierce is 40. Got offsets like Pepin. They take 2 to 3 months expenditures and calculate it off. There's very other thing I asked them is, where does your fund balance presently sit as of your 2026? Now this graph, there's nothing on the horizontal, it's just vertical. I just wanted to depict where we stand in comparison. Polk is in red. That's our present fund balance percentage is 63.52. Because everybody else has got La Crosse at 62, Milas at 55, Pierce at 85, Temple at 58. You got Sauk at 110%. What's interesting about this, look at Pierce, look at Sauk, look at La Crosse, look at Milas. You go back, Sauk's at 110%, their policy is 25%. Pierce is at 50-some percent, their policy is 40%. So most of the counties are sitting well above what their policy is. Some of them stay a little closer, out of game gets close to theirs. Pretty much everybody else is either at the top end of their policy or well above. And I did send this back because a lot of the responses I got was, we're also looking at ours because we haven't increased our policy. So the other thing I did, because there's been talk about what should our policy be, should it be changed? Because I listed 3 scenarios based on the 12/31/20 numbers. This is if you raised our policy to 30%. This is 40. This is 50. Required reserve of our present numbers be 8.3 million. That would leave an available excess above policy at 9.3. Raise it to 40. Required reserve would be 11.1. Would leave an available excess above policy of 6.5. At 50, the required reserve off the 12/31/20 numbers, even an available excess of 3.7. Now understand that once we close out 21, we'll have to reapply that, whatever the policy is as of 12/31/20, and then those numbers will change. So if our reserves go up, the excess is gonna go up a little bit. If our numbers go down, the excess is gonna. So that's it in a nutshell, because I think Supervisor O'Connell, his question was, should it sit at the 20 or should it be raised, which would be in the purview of this committee. County
Do we know the rationale for setting it at 20%?
It was set back when Dana Fry was administrator, and I can only surmise based on talking to Maggie and stuff in the past, that I think the rationale was we don't have much of a fund balance at all now. We want to get it to a survivable level because my understanding is at that time, Polk County was very cash. And it was at least kind of a safe area to get to. 20% is less than 3 months operating expenses. Look at it that way. 25 would be 3 months savings. Yes, sir.
I think that was a recommendation from our rating.
Okay.
This
Let's try to stay in committee.
So, like, for instance, this year, Chad, when you are doing this, showing our fund balance, like, so the resolution that we proposed with the trail, right? And we're using ARPA fund, no, we were using lime quarry funds and then money from general fund, right, or fund balance?
Correct.
So there was 500 some thousand.
Right.
So that won't show up until the end of the year, right? Where you go into next year to say, all right, so that number right now in this year's budget is $600,000 higher.
Yeah, so for example, right now, because I just did it, we're going to show it in the next piece. Right now, post our the administrator's budget, because the administrator's budget has no use
So
of
you're
fund
gonna,
balance,
you got more slides.
has 668,000 of fund balance spent. So you would decrease that 17.7 by 668.
We've added that all up. So far, just on,
What's been done so far?
we approved those amendments.
Now, I mean, we redo the finance policies in December, so this could wait till then. You guys could make a recommendation now to go to the board. But I was trying to figure out the best way to present the information based on the project component.
Okay, personally, Chair, I know we've been talking about since I've been on the board that our fund balance. Every time we have our audit, we have our accountants come in, they always talk like, you guys are at 20, but we never, this year is an anomaly, like you said, we've always been a little bit below most of the other counties. That fund balance. And they've always said, you guys should be up there. You should never get down to 20. I've heard that. I mean, if I was looking at it, I personally would say I would make a recommendation that we go to at least 40% fund balance. At least to start the conversation with. That's what I would do. Is that? Yeah.
The chair.
Yeah. So Chair, I would make a recommendation to go to 40%. That'd be my motion. If you need a motion for taking action, I'd make a motion.
Can we take action?
If the action is making a recommendation,
Recommendation,
Yeah.
not that we're
Right.
taking any, we're not changing
you're not
it.
officially changing
We're not
it.
changing it.
And at some point, it's going to be a resolution that gets to the board, but out of this committee, I would make a recommendation that we would support a fund balance of 40.
So in keeping with our work plan, I think the way it would work is you'd make a recommendation, we'll show it to the board this month. The board would say we want to go in that direction, and we do the policy revisions in December, at which time both you, your committee adopts or makes any changes to the policy, then they go to the board for adoption or changes. That's when.
And Chad, follow up on that recommendation. So let's say we're at 40%, and let's say a couple of years from now, there's a new board sitting here, and you clearly have a board that says, we need $3 million, and you, whoever the administrator at the time says, well, you've only got $2.5 million. Would the board have the ability to go in and tweak that number, or to go grab that extra 500,000 if they wanted to?
Yeah, the board can technically do whatever they want with the policy at any time.
Okay, so they could change it if they needed the funds. But at least this would give us a pretty clear policy to say, we're gonna stay in this range.
And what it also does is it prevents, say you have an administrator in the future that wants to draw down to the minimums, it prevents that from happening because you've got that policy in place. The board would have to change the policy.
The administrator, it would hold the administrators accountable not to go below that fund balance without coming to the board.
Because right now it triggers proration.
It also, the reason we put it like this is so that you all can see how many dollars are out there, because as the administrator, we go to each of these committees, there's this feeling of, we got money, we got ARPA money, we got general fund, and it's my bias. I see people going, yes, spend. That's it from my lens. So we said, let's show you what money is available. And yeah, we got 9 million right now that we could spend. But I don't think that would be wise. That would take us down too low, and we've been there before.
Then we're borrowing money during the year to pay bills, right?
Exactly. If you go into a bad economy, Maggie and I used to have these conversations about how bad it was post 2008. And I know at one point we were somewhere around $5.8 million tax. The county has to pay those property taxes out to municipalities. You need your cash.
But a higher percentage gives us that ability to be comfortable with, if there's an emergency, we have the funds there, we know it.
The board or an administrator doesn't get us right down to that bare minimum, and then all of a sudden we don't have any money.
But even if you get to the minimum, I mean, you could dip down below it in an emergency.
Sure.
But if you're already down at 20%, there's not much there. So we're building that there, so in the event of a catastrophe or something where we can't collect taxes or we don't have the money, nobody has the
So do
money.
you guys have a recommendation, Chad or Vince? Chad, you're the finance guy.
My recommendation would be go with 50 because we're sitting in the middle of the road at 50. But I'm also really, really conservative.
As we discussed that, I'm okay with 50. My feeling was more towards 40.
Okay.
Can we get, Mike, can we get consensus? Not need a motion. So our recommendation on this committee would be 40%. That would be a recommendation from this. All right, what's our budget technical amendments? Amendments we need to talk about?
This is, as we went through the committees, and again, the feeling was, hey, let's propose amendment, either a additional spending item, and which is in your menu of items that I've asked you to decide on, or other things that have been approved, like the P-tag trails and so on. So we thought we'd just give you a summary of what is being asked to be paid for and where it's going to come.
So what you have before you are the present either recommendations or changes to the budget from the proposed budget. Environmental services, we can go through those. Correct me if I'm wrong on any of these, Supervisor O'Connell. Addition of playground equipment at D.D. Kennedy Park and replacement of playground equipment at Lotus Lake recommended. 90,000, a one-time expenditure. That's fund balance. They are under,
What page can you say?
I don't have that one in front of me, but it's if you go to your table of contents, it's the additional funding request. The Environmental Services Committee also recommended paving the gravel parking lot at D.D. Kennedy, 18,000 one-time fund balance. The Environmental Services Committee recommended funding for conservation and groundwater programming. That's adding one study per year. That's $10,000. That's recurring. That would be fund balance this year, but then following years, we'll have to account for that at a levy since it's recurring. Then P-TAG projects, and these have already been approved by the board, so through the committees of the board. We've got 900,000, which is a total of 1.45 million. 900,000 is coming from the trail fund, which is the lime quarry sale. And the excess will flow from the general fund. And we're estimating the excess at $550,000. That has been approved by the board. General government approved by the board is the ARPA funds of 1.62 million, and that's ARPA funding for the recycling center. And then already approved by this committee for board consideration, and it does not change the expenditure because it was already in the administrator's budget, it's just a reallocation. It's moving 10,000 for tourism.
It does have the earmark that it's for tourism. It's not for economic development. I want to make that clear. It should somehow be very clear.
My plan was to create a line within economic development for tourism.
I want them to be accountable for.
So the total change from the proposed budget, including the ARPA funds, you've got 668,000. It is either recommended or approved out of the fund balance. 900,000 from the trail fund, that'll use up the trail fund. And then ARPA, we've got 1.62 million, so 3.188 million. Still,
I thought you had more than 900,000 in that fund for the. It's a round number. And how many?
when I ran it about a month, well, probably about 2 months ago, when we first did it, was about 992. But Mo's been doing some work, and we've been doing some other work out of there. So we did 900,000 to be safe. It may not draw as much as 550 out of there, but we had to put a placeholder safe number. So it just depends on whatever's left of the $200,000 line from this year plus the remaining balance. At most, it would be 990,000, but it may be as low as that.
You always give yourself a little wiggle room. That's good.
What is paint cans?
I know it. There's not much in it though, I've noticed.
All right, so these were the additional funding requests for the board consideration put forward by the administrator that you guys got a couple months ago. We talked about that week. Parks and Trails. And this is in your book too.
54.
What's under Parks and Trails, the additional playground equipment and the paving the gravel parking lot, as you saw, Environmental Services has already recommended that be paid for. The original request was 60,000, but based on the cost of equipment and the groundwork Mo needed to do, the committee thought 90,000 was a better number to make sure Mo had what he needed to do that project.
I have a question. So was that in their CIP budget?
Yeah, both of those are in their CIP.
It was. So they weren't creating something new.
Okay. Everything in here is in the CIP.
Gotcha.
For this, I'll go over what's already been recommended by other committees. See, Land and Water had funding for the groundwater conservation programming, the 10,000, which Environmental Services recommended. Law enforcement has replacing the failing microwave radio system and backup batteries on the radio towers. That's in the CIP as well, at 1.1 million. That's part of Supervisor Kelly's resolution. For this committee, still to consider are information technology, replace an existing disaster recovery and backup system with a new system to include offsite storage. We don't store any of our data offsite. All of our data is backed up on site. So if you had a natural disaster, a horrific fire or something, you potentially would like that. That one's for this committee if they wanted to add it to the budget at this point. Replace the lighting in all the courtrooms with LED lighting, and Bo can explain that one better. If you have any questions, that's 45,000. That ultimately leads towards maintenance cost savings, and over time, payback in energy costs. Mo can probably tell you a little better over time. Sure what the payback time frame was on that. But they spend a lot of time changing bulbs and that kind of stuff in there. So there's maintenance, you know, the LED bulbs last. Recycling, the Gaylords, the overhead door. Those are included in the 1.62 million, right?
I was gonna ask.
Just the overhead doors.
Not the Gaylords.
Gaylords are bins.
Okay, so for recycling, still for this committee to consider, be $10,000 for their bins, the Gaylords, and $95,000 for the big haul truck for recycling.
Question on that. So why wouldn't we take it out of the funds we just put into improve recycling? Like, why wouldn't it go into that budget?
The 1.16 was to improve recycling.
Sure, so it's just a choice that you made. I'm just, if we're gonna put $1.6 million into it,
As stated earlier with the RFP coming in, because I'm sure that cost is going to be higher than 1.6 update the facility. Sure, that these would be separate that we need now. Is to come in and not get.
so when we put the 1.6 million, that goes into next year's budget. Who gets to start, who spends money out of that? Who decides, you get $1.6 million put in the budget, you come back to the board and say, here's how we're gonna spend the 1.6? Because what you just said earlier is that we have the lime quarry fund money, right? And you said it was 990, but Mo's been spending money out of it. Maybe we only got 900. So explain to me how that fund's different than this fund. If you need money, you go grab it where you got it.
With example, with the lime quarry, the resolution, the board amended the budget to allow a $200,000 line in the Parks and Trails budget for Mo and Bob's teams to improve the trails.
Sure.
And then they've spent out of that line. And they are the ones who.
They make the decision along with the administrator.
Administrator to spend out of those lines.
Yeah, and when we get an RFP out for the recycling center, then it will come before.
I understand that, but in the RFP, you're saying it's not gonna have anything to do with the RFP about bins or anything else. That RFP is gonna be specifically on just that building package, the interior of that building.
The interior of that building and expansion of the sorting line.
Sure,
The major components inside,
sure.
not the pickups.
One of the things that could we say is the things that we considered in the thought.
While studying. And lighting.
So this is CIP money again then?
This would be the yellow is additional for this committee to consider if you wanted to add. Any of this would be fund balance expenditures.
Well, this is fund balance.
It would have to be fund balance.
So who decided, so this committee has to decide whether we need a big haul truck. No one else has said, hey, we need a big haul truck, right? No other committee has said we need it.
It lies within this.
It lies. So can someone explain why we need a big haul truck? So why don't you tell us what everything we need up there? It looks like you're the guy spending the money.
I can show you what the truck is and stuff.
No, just whatever you want to do, just explain it. I'm fine with just an explanation.
Sure, the replacement hook truck is for 2011 international haul truck. It's got 356,211 miles on it currently. Last 5 years, it's cost us $33,920 in repair costs. So it's due for replacement.
Okay, that's good.
The Gaylords for $10,000. These are describing them, they're probably 6x6 rolling bins that off the sorting line, the material comes down and dumps into them. $10,000 will get us 4 to 5 of these bins, depending on cost. Bless you. Bless you. What else you got? The museum, 3 doors on the museum for $20,000. These doors currently are efficient, leaking around the edges, and these 3 doors currently do not have the panic hardware for emergency exit. You know, the push bars. If they're locked from the inside, they don't have the push bars on there. So those are on there. The lighting in the courtroom, 45,000. These are replacing our existing lighting with up-to-date LED lightings for better lighting, to improve efficiencies and reduce maintenance costs. There's a cost saving there for energy costs. The 1-ton plow truck for facilities. This is a shared truck between facilities and parks. It's a current 2012 Ford that in the wintertime is used mainly by facilities for plowing our parking lots, and then runs all summer long with our seasonals for parks and trails.
Helps a lot to hear
And then curious on what the play equipment would look like for the playgrounds. I can show you
that.
that.
Environmental Services approved that playground.
And they
Is
have-
it unanimous? Sure.
And then this committee would give a recommendation forward.
Along with the paving of the D.D. Kennedy parking lot on top.
That was recommended by Environmental Services, unanimous.
Correct.
All I needed.
Someone like to make a recommendation. Committee.
Speak it. Yeah, we voted last month on recycling center, doing the necessary where it should be. It seems that not very efficient to be piecemeal, one item here and another item here. One fund or whatever, but
Make a recommendation. Sure.
Are we talking about all 6 items in
Everything that you showed us today.
just so the committee's clear, that would add 265, 285. That would bring the fund balance expenditure this year to about $950,000.
Yeah, I'd spend it. Play with the attitude.
Get it on consensus, or do we need to do more?
question that relates to. I think the microwave tower is in the other resolution we have coming. We want to address that before we approve them.
What?
Well, you're not approving that one. Your motion is just the 6 highlighted, correct?
I thought we said everything on this page.
No. What's the highlight?
The highlighted ones.
Just the highlight.
What's not highlighted?
That's the header and overhead door recycling. That is part of the file study, the 1.62. We'll have stricken out.
Any more? Now we have a motion, a second. More discussion? All in favor? Great. Brings us to resolution 5621. Up to 2022 Polk County operating capital.
So the resolution you have in front of you is our full budget resolution. Stays in draft status until after next week's meeting. Then it goes into final status because I have to incorporate any changes.
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second it for the sake of discussion. Do we need discussion?
They had whereas clauses. number of them make reference to other documents attached. At some point, the supervisor is going to be looking at the.
Yes, we'll package everything. So a lot of those documents are already in your proposed plan, the capital plan, the fee schedule, all that you've already gotten. The one you don't have is the state equalization report, which just came in. So we'll hand that out.
Grants. List of grants.
That's in the,
I didn't have time to
Okay.
be digging that out, and I
Right.
frankly don't like voting on.
They were voting on like the county board. Get an opportunity. County board.
They make the same comment at the county board.
It's to move it to the public hearing first, correct?
That on Tuesday, that has to
Tuesday,
happen.
and then it'll go to the county board.
You're saying everything has been passed out except for
the equalization.
the equalization. You have everything already.
We're gonna get to look at it. So Mike just wants more time. We're gonna get to look at it,
I don't want to spend time digging it out of,
not right now.
well, not now or ever.
Oh, sure. I'd go sit down and have a conversation with Chad in his office if you really want to go through it. I mean, that's the best place for supervisors. If you want to drill it,
Sense of voting on something.
sure.
You don't.
All right, well, we got a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Not all those in favor? Opposed? Brings us to resolution 5721. Make capital improvements to emergency communications, justice center, and building using ARPA funds. It's probably, let's start with a motion to get it.
I'll make a motion.
A discussion.
Yeah, what is it all about again? Get an explanation from the author of it, possibly, Chair?
Sure.
Chair?
Sure.
Okay, so this includes the 1.1 million for the failing microwave radio system. And it also includes the additional radio tower to add to the emergency communication system in the valley near the St. Croix Falls area. And then it includes 150,000 for renovations to the roof bell tower of the Polk County Museum and replacing the roof at the Justice Center at a cost not to exceed 1.025 million. All of those projects have the detailed plans in place. All the estimates have been done. They're shovel ready, except it doesn't involve any digging. But that's all, they're all ready to go. Dan has details on the radio towers. If you would like to see that, he's got information he can pass out. And the presentation, if you'd like to see that too, on both the towers.
Anyone like to see the presentation?
Haven't seen it. I think
Seen it on the bell tower?
on the towers, bell tower,
That's part.
that's part of it, and the 150,000.
We seen a presentation on it.
But Mo has the details from the structural engineer who did the estimates on the repairs. He can share that.
Sure, I'm just gonna raise my hand. Not that is a conflict of interest for me, but the company I work for, which is owned by myself and my family, we do work for the county and they call us in for oddball jobs once in a while. So I'm gonna just notify you guys that I believe I could have a conflict of interest down the road if I get asked a year or two, whether I'm on the board or not, that I would bid on work like this, the doors, some of these projects. So I'm not gonna vote on this resolution. today or at the county board meeting, but I support it. I'm not gonna vote. So I don't know if that's a problem with
Is
the
it a conflict of interest?
Well, it's not currently a conflict of interest, and you as the chair would have to excuse him from what he's asking for is to be able to recuse himself without it being counted in the negative. So if you would exclude him from
How about
counting
the
of
fact that we
quorum,
don't have a quorum?
then you would not have a quorum. Right. So that's what I think you as the chair could do, is say that based upon the fact that you wouldn't have a quorum if you granted his request just to move it to the county board, is that it goes to the county board just by operation of the fact that
We
it's
could
already on the
actually go
agenda.
without a recommendation.
Yeah.
Get it to the county board without a recommendation.
fine, as long as I just want to disclose that.
So then at the county board meeting, when you ask to recuse yourself from the vote on this, I would suggest stepping down as chair and having Jay step in just for that.
John, you mean?
John, sorry.
Fine.
Do we need the do you want a presentation? He has a presentation prepared.
I'll see it.
No, not at all. Well,
Mo, do you
I
have,
guess Mo could give us some
Yes,
info on the gold.
I'm also on the Justice Center roof. Did we have a presentation? I'd like to hear that. I'm just noting that it was 2005, so that's 16 years old now, and that's almost still within warranty on the roof.
Not on a commercial building.
What happened there? It should last more than
Would
16
the-
years.
Would the presentations be more appropriate at county board? Or are they more appropriate here?
We're gonna send it on anyways.
It's going to county board, with or without our recommendation. It's just, do you want presentation now and again at county board? Or do you?
Because we're not gonna vote on
I
it.
would like, because I presume we're voting on this resolution.
Oh, no, we're not voting on that.
We're not voting on the resolution?
No, it's going to county board. It's going, we can go with the recommendation without. Whatever we choose, but we are not making this. So do we want the presentations today or do we want them at county board when the decisions? Well,
I've got time.
I would make a comment, Chair, that I would request that it be done at county board where everyone's gonna be voting on this. And that I have to get back to work, so I would rather not sit through it right now if possible.
I'm good sitting through it once. I know you guys prepared it and you came here today if you would need to present, but I have no issue with hearing it at the county board.
Maybe, Dan, it might be helpful to pass on
Yeah,
the packets you
You
have,
have information you could give Mike that he could?
so he can read that ahead of time before the board.
State. This is a microwave replacement.
You have anything you could give Mike, any information that he could read up on bell tower?
Doing the assessment report.
What you're gonna give us in the report?
Yes, give some color.
Think will that help you?
Yeah, I'm happy to have it. I'll read it. If there's anything on the Justice Center roof, I'd be interested in looking at that.
Anything on the Justice Center roof? Besides the cost?
Could you, Mo, at least tell them why a roof on a commercial building has a different warranty than a residential?
That was my question.
Oh, I thought that was.
I guess my question is, why is it worn out in 15, 16 years?
The warranty was only actually 6-year warranty or 5-year warranty. If that, the conditions we had problems with that roof was it's an asphalt roof laid over a membrane that started to blister on us. You walk up there, there'd be blisters and it's sunbaked, those blisters on asphalt, crack and leak. So we had a lot of problems with that. The installation process of how they wrap the roof around the corners. Which we didn't.
But Was the original design and installation properly done?
Years, probably. At that time, till the warranty ran out, it was a very minimal warranty on there.
Did it last the 6 years?
Yes.
6 years. But again, it's age building, it's age building.
So the roof you're putting on gonna last more than 6?
Yes.
More than 15 or 16?
All right, do it. We have a motion to go with the recommendation or without? And we would get a motion to bring it to have discussion.
Yeah, yeah, we had a first and a second to talk about it. I just said I'm not gonna vote on it if I can be excused.
Well, let's just say that we're sending it to county board without a recommendation. We won't have a forum. If you vote to recommend it, we won't have a forum. We'll just send it to county board without a recommendation.
Or is it, I see on our form here, it's got neutral, is that without a recommendation?
At the very bottom.
Yes.
Recommended, not recommended, neutral.
Should we just say neutral? Neutral, that we'd be neutral on it?
Yep, I say.
Leah said neutral would be. All right. We're gonna send it to the county board with a neutral. We'd be neutral. All those in favor? Okay. All right, that brings us to our 2021 work plan. Did we get everything accomplished we were supposed to?
Of course.
We're on course.
And next month is developing the 2022 work plan, viewing the financial policy. Policy and personnel policy.
About subject matters for our next meeting. Need to add things, or we got enough going?
We possibly might have the WPPA on there again. Oh, wait, put that on there just,
Just speaking it out.
we gotta go to close session.
All right, we're gonna, can we get a
Yes.
motion to
I'll make a motion.
go into closed session 19.8518?
Make that motion.
Roll call vote, Mike.
Aye.
Then who will be in our closed session?
Eddie,
No, I won't.
Joe Lasso,
Throw the light art in there.
What's the
you got
door?
amendment.
Do it
On your way
instead.
out.
All right.
Are we in closed session?
No,
Talking about adding insurance.
Yeah.
I'm lost.
close the door on your way out, come.
I will close it. Without comment.
Or in the session.
We adjourn.
We're recording.
Back in there. We're back in open session. One item of business.
Sure.
I'll second.
11:36.